Maverick News presents The Rick Walker Show. Defrag your mind.
Whoa, there it is again. That logo didn't come down, and I'm going to fix that for you right now. She's gone. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Maverick News Channel. Great to have everybody here. Wherever you may be watching from, welcome, everyone. Oh, boy, what a day. We have so much to talk about. Polish farmers blocking the border with Ukraine. They're not happy about some of the trade policies in place between the two countries and the Green New European Deal. Justin Trudeau, he wants blue-collar votes, going back to his old playbook, trying to appeal to the middle class. Will it work? He's obviously trying to regain lost ground in his battle with Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives. Kefias banned in the Ontario legislature. We'll tell you why. How many Russian soldiers have died in the Ukraine conflict? Well, conflicting numbers. We'll tell you what's being said about that. And the new arms race. It's a real thing. It's destabilizing. The United States playing catch-up with new hypersonic technology that we will also tell you about this evening. And Joe Biden, today, he was making bizarre comments about his uncle being eaten by cannibals. Really? You just can't make this stuff up. Because truth, it seems, these days is still stranger than fiction. Don't go away. We'll have all that and more on the other side of this.
The information war is raging. Truth without integrity is worth nothing. Maverick News. Because those who have power and those who seek it must be held accountable.
The world is watching.
Join our family of truth seekers. Donate today and add your voice to the chorus of Maverick Knights. Donate at maverickdonations.com. Truth. Integrity. It's the Maverick way. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
All right, let's start off with this protest in Poland. Polish farmers not happy with their current trade arrangement with Ukraine. They've temporarily blockaded their borders. This is over a dispute involving grain shipments. They began blocking these border crossings with trucks back in February. They were big back then, and they've renewed these blockades again. It's all related, of course, to the global effort to curb the use of fertilizers, implement climate change legislation, rules. It's all impacting agriculture in a serious way around the world. And in Poland, the farmers are upset because the grain coming in from Ukraine is priced lower, and they don't think that they're getting a fair deal. So that's what is going on at the border crossings right now. It's not so much directly related in any way to the war. It is over trade policies, climate change policies, and by extension, it is also related to globalism and international trade deals, the Western economy, the way that it's set up, but specifically the agricultural trade deals between Ukraine and Poland. So it's getting some attention again tonight. It is being disruptive. These blockades are expected to remain up at least until sometime tomorrow. That's the information that we're getting here. Border Guard service there recorded about 1,500 trucks waiting in line in the Polish territory. The ongoing blockade has led to deteriorating relations between the two countries, Poland and Ukraine. Protesters actually tipped over and spilled Ukrainian grain on several occasions. Shipments of grain coming in, knocked it over basically, rolled the trucks, I guess. And that further inflamed the situation. Ukraine's prime minister arrived in Poland back in March to meet with his Polish counterpart Donald Tusk and discussed these issues back then. But the farmers are still not happy, and so earlier this month, Poland and Ukraine established a Council for Cooperation to deal with bilateral Polish-Ukrainian relations and aid Ukraine's reconstruction. But obvious tensions between the two countries, exacerbated, I would say, by the war and anxiety over the possibility of a third world war, I would say. It just complicates everything. And so we'll keep an eye on that. Kind of a protest that was escalating, then kind of went away, and now it is back again on the border. Not to be misinterpreted, it is a trade issue, largely, and the larger issue involves the European Union and the way that it impacts trade as well. What else is going on today in the world of news? Well, a Polish citizen accused of spying for Russia has been arrested and charged in connection with what is being described as a potential assassination attempt against Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. This coming from the top prosecutors in Poland and Ukraine. The Polish citizen has been identified as Pavel K. He's charged with readiness to act for foreign intelligence against the Republic of Poland. This coming from the Polish National Prosecutor's Office. A press release has been issued. This suspect allegedly proactively established contact with Russian military, according to these charges and the media release. And he's accused of informing them of his readiness to cooperate with the Russian Federation's Foreign Military Intelligence Agency. So, according to the authorities, the suspect's alleged tasks for the Russian government were to include collecting and providing the agency with information on the security of an airport, an international airport in Jasionka in southeastern Poland, and if convicted, he could face up to 8 years in prison. So he's in a bit of trouble. See what kind of evidence they manage to bring forward as he goes to trial. There's another one to keep an eye on, and obviously a political element to that story. Speaking of politics and people in jail and charges being laid and so on, we did mention this very briefly, but didn't really have the time to get into much detail yesterday. But 3 men have been convicted now, found guilty on mischief charges in relation to that border blockade in Coutts, Alberta, which was part of the whole Freedom Convoy. So these guys could face 10 years, up to 10 years in prison on simple mischief charges. That's the charge, the go-to charge these days for Justin Trudeau's authorities. And that's the most common charge laid, I would say, in connection with the Freedom Convoy and other protests of that type. I know there were gasps of horror in the courtroom when the decision was handed down. People appalled because of the political nature of it. And yet, I have to say that at least 2 of the men in this case have indicated that based on, they've said after the verdict came down, they're admitting that they're guilty based on the way the law was interpreted during the trial. So they don't plan to appeal, as I understand it, and they're now just awaiting sentencing. So there's another one that we'll just have to try to keep tabs on. So 3 guys, Coutts, Alberta, border blockade, found guilty on mischief charges. The Crown attorney, I know during that trial, indicated that they didn't have to prove that they were even the leaders of the protest. They were just there and involved, although evidence was presented from social media posts and other evidence to show what they had been saying to illustrate the depth of their involvement in the protest. And so now it's kind of up to the judge and the discretion there what kind of sentence will come down. Will they get 10 years for their involvement there? I have no idea. I really don't know. My guess is it will be much less than that. And for whatever time they may have served in jail, they'll get double time for that, generally speaking. Any time served is worth 2 times normal time, is the way that the court system normally deals with it. So we'll have to wait and see how things pan out and what the actual sentence ends up being. and then we'll gauge the level of justice or injustice, depending on your point of view on that story. Mischief charges, I've had some difficulty with that all the way along. Mischief, 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 charged with mischief, mischief, mischief. You know, mischief to me is generally something like spraying your free graffiti or causing a disruption, but a mischief charge, 10 years in prison, it seems out of whack. But we'll see. We'll see. Politics, protests. We're seeing lots of that still on the Hamas, Palestine, Israel front tonight, both in Canada and the United States. Let me see if I can get you what I want to show you here. So many things. Let me take a quick break here so I can queue up some tabs that I seem to have misplaced or have been inadvertently deleted off my queue. Just give me about, 60 seconds and we'll get her all set up for you.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, so I'm back. And yeah, lots of protests. Yesterday we saw Columbia's president, university, on the hot seat, asked about anti-Semitism, protests, anti-Jewish protests on campus. Ahmad Shafiq's visit to Capitol Hill was a reprise of a December hearing that led to the resignations of presidents at Harvard and the University of Pennsylvania, and is part of a Republican campaign to investigate anti-Semitism at America's universities since the October 7th attack on Israel. And we have seen a rise in division, prejudice, bigotry, anger, hate on all sides, and in particular, and I would say surprising to me, rise in the level of anti-Semitic activity, including online. So yesterday, the president of Columbia University was asked about it, and asked, I don't remember which politician was grilling her, but she was asked, would you tolerate this for even 1 second? And she said no, but actions speak louder than words. And so after acknowledging that there was some sort of a problem, now we're getting action. And the action we are getting, and let me just find this for you here, is this: arrests made on campus today. And this will anger some and please others. Pro-Palestinian protesters being arrested on campus today. But wait, there's more. Of course. Pro-Palestinian protesters here being encouraged by left-wing politician, independent, I believe, is he running as an independent, Cornel West, Dr. Cornel West? I believe so. He announced his running mate the other day, one of the co-founders of Black Lives Matter. Here's a group of protesters being encouraged to keep going by Dr. Cornel West. Difficult to hear what he's saying, but you're getting the idea. You're getting this convergence of the progressive liberal left and the Islamic Muslim, well, I'm not going to say left or right. You can decide for yourself. Here's more. Here's more. Because there's more, there's lots more. This just seems to get bigger daily. These protests.
We will honor all the martyrs. We will honor all the martyrs. All the children, sons and daughters. All the children, sons and daughters. We will honor all the martyrs. We will honor all the martyrs. All the parents, mothers, fathers. All the parents, mothers, fathers. We will honor all the martyrs. We will honor all the martyrs. All the children, sons and daughters.
Okay, so, like I've been making the point from the very beginning, ever since, well, long before October 7th, what were they chanting? We will honor all the martyrs, all the mothers, sons, and daughters. All the children, the martyrs. It's a martyr-based ideology. As far as I'm concerned, that's the main part of the strategy. It always has been. After October 7th, they knew that they would get the response they got. Hamas did, and as a result, they used the civilians as shields, human shields, resulting in death. Every death, every dead Palestinian becomes a martyr and used, exploited for political purposes. They become a weapon. They're used as a weapon. The civilians are used as a weapon. You have to understand the evolution of the religion, which really, this kind of activity, suicide bombings, sacrificing civilians in this kind of conflict, it became more acceptable and promoted, starting really back in the 1970s. They're telling you what they're doing with their chant. You don't have to like what I'm saying. You can disagree with me if you want to, but they're telling you exactly what I've been telling you. That's the truth. That's what they've done. So you can blame Israel and the Jewish people all you want, but I think it's unacceptable, and I think that it's just my opinion, and I'm editorializing here. Netanyahu made a critical error going in the way that he did. I'm not in favor of what he has done. I don't think Israel was wise to respond and to the level that they did, and that they continue to respond. I don't think it's wise. They've lost. They don't understand clearly that if you win, you lose. And if you lose, you win. Because of the martyr strategy, the martyr ideology. And unfortunately, tragically, thousands and thousands of civilians and thousands of children have died as a result. But it's sick on both sides. You have Hamas committing atrocities, kicking things off on October 7th, and you can pick whatever start date you want. We can debate that till we're blue in the face. But that's when this round of fighting began. And they were counting on Israel. When I say they, I mean Hamas and the leadership of Hamas and the leaders of the supporting proxies in the area. They knew this was going to happen, and they've been 3 steps ahead all along. Not just in the Middle East, but around the world, with even their propaganda campaigns. It's been very, very effective. Israel has been losing. While they may think they're winning because they're exerting such, military force in Gaza, and it looks like they're succeeding, in reality, they're not at all. They're losing. Because they're losing international support. And the protests continue to mount, and people don't understand, because people here in the West don't even understand the religion, the Muslim religion. They don't understand Islam. They don't understand the psychology. They don't understand the political and military strategies that are connected to it. It's all about martyrdom. And you just heard them chanting it. I don't know what else to tell you. It's the way it works today. It's upside down thinking. Don't know. This is another protest on the other side. Let's check this out. America and Israel joined at the hip. That's the truth of the matter. Unfortunately, we have sort of a bizarre political situation all the way around, though, with the Democrats in power. It's a very strange relationship that the Biden administration has with Israel and Iran at the same time. We're seeing evidence of this relationship, this dual, shadowy relationship that they have on both sides. It's kind of twisted and bizarre, too. And we've seen that going all the way back, especially to the administration with Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, and plane loads of money going over to Iran, which has been using proxies around Israel to apply military pressure and escalate things over time. And now the accusations of Israel attacking that consulate in Syria, using that as justification for that full-on, unprecedented, massive attack against Israel using drones and missiles, including hypersonic missiles. Very destabilizing, I would say. We got into the whole discussion the other night about hypersonic technology. And up until just very recently, it's been China, Russia, and the United States that have had access to hypersonic technology. Only those three nations. Now we've seen that Russia, it appears, has shared their hypersonic technology with Iran. And this is very destabilizing because there is a limited ability to defend against these hypersonic missiles, which travel at speeds in excess of Mach 5, 5 times the speed of sound, with the Chinese versions and some versions of these weapons able to travel at speeds up to Mach 10 at times, leaving anyone who's being attacked with one of these things maybe minutes to respond, to decide whether they're going to respond. Well, it's an arms race is what we have now, and it's been ongoing for at least the past decade. These weapons fly at such speeds that the air around them actually turns to plasma because there's so much friction and so much heat generated that the molecules in the atmosphere actually liquefy into like fire molten plasma. That's how fast these things travel. The impact from them, just the impact from the missile itself, without even a warhead, can create massive damage. And so today, this week, we saw Lockheed Martin unveil this weapon at an arms fair. This is the Lockheed Martin Mako. It is said to be hypersonic, but today we're seeing Russian media trying to kind of downplay the significance of this weapon, wondering if it is indeed truly hypersonic. The information that I've been able to find out about this so far today is that this weapon will travel at speeds in excess of Mach 5, not as fast as the Chinese or Russian versions, from the information I've been able to find anyway. But is it truly an equalizer for NATO and the United States? Well, if you look at the Russian reports on this, they're kind of scoffing at it. They don't think that this thing is nearly as potent as the weapons that they have, and it appears even Iran now. We also looked at some of the intelligence consulting firms that provide recommendations to U.S. security and the U.S. military, the U.S. government. I was looking into that, and they were recommending up to 6 years ago that they enter into negotiations to limit the spread and proliferation of this hypersonic technology. But that has not happened. Indeed, just the opposite, because now Russia has shared this technology with Iran, and that has created a whole new situation in the Middle East. That is why, in my estimation, the Biden administration has backed off on supporting Iran with, or Israel rather, with a full-blown retaliatory strike against Iran in the face of this accusation that Israel attacked that consulate embassy in Syria, killing some top military officers, including a couple of Iranian generals. And, I have to say, just to be fair and balanced on this thing, that Israel has really not commented on this and has not accepted responsibility for it. They are accused of it. There is evidence, obviously, to suggest that Israel was directly involved and responsible for that, but we're in a war, and so you have to look at all the information and then kind of come up with your own, I guess, assessment on what is true and what is propaganda. Either way, we have escalation. And these weapons come in at such speeds that and are so maneuverable even at those speeds that it is very difficult, potentially even impossible, to shoot them down. But is the Mako, the U.S. answer to that? Well, I don't know. If it's traveling at Mach 5, that would make it hypersonic, fast enough to evade interception and destruction midair. Possibly. But it hasn't really been battle tested. We'll see. The thing is, these missiles can also be loaded onto these F-35 jets. Said to be, the most sophisticated fighter jets in the world, although they have their vulnerabilities, and I think that's because you're dealing with such advanced technology that they require a lot of maintenance. It takes a lot to keep them in service, but they have become the new NATO standard. And also, just within the last few months, we've seen other NATO countries ramping up orders for these F-35 fighter jets, which are capable of carrying not just these Mako hypersonic missiles, but other weapons as well. I believe they can carry nuclear warheads. So we have really a completely different strategic landscape, don't we? Especially in the Middle East. And if there's no way to shoot these missiles down, then even military vessels are vulnerable to attack and destruction by these hypersonic missiles. No wonder Biden is telling Netanyahu to scale things back. And we've seen also comments coming straight out of Iran saying that they have new capabilities, that the missiles they used are not even their most advanced, and the ones used in this most recent attack. And they're warning. They've warned Israel. Is it a bluff or is it for real? But they're saying if Israel retaliates, there will be a massive response. And I'll tell you this, they've been studying. They used that attack to try to determine where the vulnerabilities in the Israeli Iron Dome are. And they'll use that information in their next attack. It seems that Israel still remains determined to respond in some way. And with the current situation, the way that it is, it seems inevitable, doesn't it? That we're going to get some sort of a response, and then another counter-response, and another response, and another counter-response. The assessment on all of this, I think by some of the pundits, or maybe even some of the propagandists out there, is such that they're assessing it incorrectly, I think, because you have to remember that this is not so much a prelude to war, maybe a prelude to a third world war, but Israel and Hamas are at war. This is a war. So it's not like if you get attacked this way, normally in warfare, you go into it to win. Once you're in war, then it isn't a tit for tat thing. It's a straight up, we're going to go all in and win. And that's really where we're at. So these assessments in the media that I keep seeing over and over again saying, if they do this, then, they should only be allowed to do that. And even the Biden administration telling Netanyahu, well, you do this, but you don't go too far. Well, they're at war. And I think that's how Israel is viewing all of this. Hamas, not so much. Iran, not so much. They're saying, it wasn't us. We didn't have our hand in the cookie jar. Don't look at us. You attacked us for no reason. It's all a game, ultimately, that's being played. A crazy political game with civilians being killed on both sides, tragically. So that's the truth of the matter. And now with this new hypersonic technology out there, the United States scrambling, trying to catch up, and both sides, I would say, trying to develop technologies to defend against these weapons. You marry nuclear warheads to a hypersonic missile technology, and you've got a really serious destabilizing effect on your hands globally. This is going to make everybody real trigger happy. Afraid that if they don't use their weapons right away, if they see what they think is an existential nuclear threat coming right at them, this is very, very, very dangerous. And as I say, NATO countries, they're really banking on these F-35 jets. Canada also committing to purchasing these things, and I have something more to say about that. But just recently, Belgium held a special ceremony with Lockheed Martin to mark the delivery of new F-35 jets for the Belgian Air Force. Take a look.
Contribute to the advanced hypersonic technology. And on the other hand, we are actively engaged in the educating and mentoring the next generation of engineers.
We're getting ready to manufacture the first unit to be delivered to BAS and Lockheed Martin by mid-2025.
That's a complementary supplier for parts and so on, making reference to these jets. Support. But here's the event where these things were rolled out. This took place in the U.S.
Chief Operating Officer, Lockheed Martin Corporation, Mr. Frank St. John.
This is all for Belgium.
Good afternoon, Your Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of our 120,000 Lockheed Martin team members, thank you for joining us here for this special occasion. Today, we have all gathered from across government and industry, from Belgium and the United States, to celebrate our tremendous partnership. We're grateful to all of you for your support in the long-standing relationship between our two nations and the values that unite us. The foundation of trust between the United States and Belgium goes back more than 100 years, and our strong friendship and close cooperation are grounded in our shared commitment to security, human rights, and prosperity for all. The F-35 program serves as just one of the many strong ties between Belgium and the United States and Lockheed Martin. Lockheed Martin has partnered with the Belgian Air Force for more than 60 years to provide key capabilities, including the T-33 Shooting Star, the F-104 Starfighter, the C-130 Hercules, and the legendary F-16 Fighting Falcon. Together, we have worked to support NATO, advance democracy, and spur economic growth in Belgium and around the world. Our company is proud to play a part in the safety and security of Belgium, and we thank you for your continued partnership and the trust that you've placed in us. And today, we mark a new milestone. We celebrate the rollout of the first F-35 Lightning II for the Belgian Air Force. There is no deterrence platform in the 21st century that better supports our allies and our friends. and ensures the security and safety of all Belgian citizens. Today, our world faces unprecedented threats across every domain, on land and sea, in the air, in space, and the cyber realm. In the midst of these threats, it's more important than ever to remain vigilant and prepared. The F-35 provides allied nations with unrivaled capabilities to deter far-reaching and complex threats, with its combination of advanced stealth, speed, agility, connectivity, and interoperability. The F-35 will strengthen the effectiveness of every branch of the Armed Forces of Belgium. And by 2035, more than 600 F-35s will be based in Europe. And with its next-generation interoperability, the F-35 will be the cornerstone for joint operations with NATO and its allies to protect and secure Europe. Additionally, the industrial cooperation between the United States and Belgium has not just created good jobs, but it has also fostered workforce development opportunities for Belgian citizens. Belgian industry is contributing to the F-35 program, and fully 25% of the materials that go into an F-35 are sourced from Europe. Through the Essential Security Interest Program, Lockheed Martin will continue to provide opportunities for Belgian companies in all 3 geographic regions, and going forward, we are committed to continuing expanding the impact of Belgian industry on the F-35. As we look to the future, we are committed to providing 21st century deterrence capabilities through strong partnership with our allies, driving fragility out of the defense production system, and integration of our world-class platforms and services by accelerating the adoption of digital technologies. Once again, I thank all of our distinguished guests for being here to celebrate this extraordinary aircraft and all it represents as a symbol of our friendship, cooperation, and shared ideals. Thank you for your continued trust and partnership, and congratulations to the people of Belgium on this historic occasion.
So the F-35, said to be maybe the most advanced fighter jet in the world. What does it cost? $82.5 million. That's the flyaway cost. That's what it costs. You pay your $82.5 million, you get yourself one F-35. But they're very, very high tech and require a lot of maintenance. Kind of like having a supermodel girlfriend. Sorry, I couldn't resist. As Pierre Polyev might say about something like that, it's just not worth the cost. Oh, man. $82.5 million smackers. And here's how the politicians view that. Well, I mean, it's taxpayer money anyway, right? So, what the heck? Spend it while you got it.
The Kingdom of Belgium. His Excellency Alexander de Croo.
Play the upbeat music.
Good afternoon, everyone, dear friends. What an honor to be welcomed here in Fort Worth, in the great state of Texas. And you know, they say everything is bigger in Texas. You sure know how to welcome friends, and thank you again for the great welcome we received here. You can applaud for that. I didn't know you were shy in Texas. 2 elements I want to emphasize. First, on this occasion, on the why, and then on the how. Why is this an important moment? Well, more broadly speaking, this moment is about why do we have a defense? What's the purpose? I think over the last years, it has become quite clear what important role the defense plays. It is to protect what we value. What we value means our populations, what we stand for, our way of life, our democracy, our freedom, our prosperity. And I think it has become quite clear that we are very determined to protect that, to protect our population, to protect our values, but also to protect our friends who would be threatened in the values that are shared with us. I was part in the government in 2016 that started a competitive bidding process for the Belgian air capacity. And that was an open process, and a lot of other countries looked at the way we organized that. And the F-35 came out as a clear winner with flying colors. That was in 2018. As it has been said in one of the speeches, the Belgian Air Force is a Tier 1 Air Force. We will remain that, and our military personnel is top-notch. They've been using the top equipment, and with the F-35, which is standing behind me, we have again shown that we are determined to provide them with the equipment that is at the same level of their capabilities. That is on the why. Then on the how. And the how, and I think it has been made very clear over the past hour, is on partnerships. And partnerships are important because in the world of today, it is good to have friends. Those who do not have friends do not feel very secure these days. Partnerships, first of all, with our American friends. And as has been said, this is a long-standing partnership that is transparent in many organizations, and of course NATO is one of them. NATO is today the cornerstone of our security. And I think over the past 2 years, NATO has shown its unity in moments where it has been challenged. Partnership with the United States on the security part, but of course a partnership also on the technological part. And we really appreciate the way we have been working together over the past decades. Over the past decades, we feel valued as a trusted partner. We feel valued as a partner that brings expertise, and our previous investment that we have done together with the United States have paid off more the initial investment. It has really created an industry in Belgium and in Europe, and we are particularly thankful for that. Partnership in Europe, of course, as well. And we are glad to see that many European countries have looked, have decided, and are looking at the F-35 project. And it could be that, that soon we would be 12 European countries participating in this F-35. This is going to be a major element in the European unity in defending our continent, Unfortunately, since 2 years, it is clear that we have to be ready and able. Partnerships also with our Ukrainian friends. When I said that we need this to defend our values, to defend our population, and to defend our friends, there is no place in the world today where it is more tangible what this is about. Our support for our Ukrainian friends has been there from the start. It has been sizable, and let me be clear, it will last in time and it will be sufficient. We have decided a few months ago on a package of 1.7 billion from the Belgian side to defend our Ukrainian friends, and we will continue to defend our Ukrainian friends as long as it's necessary, as long as it takes. Now, we have been talking a lot about equipment and about the very fine equipment that is standing behind me, I have to say.
Just a moment longer and then we'll
places, but this is a bit of a special
elaborate on some of this.
But of course, in the end, it is about our people. It is about our pilots. It is about everyone who works in the Air Force. It is about everyone who works in our defense and their dedication. You know, we live in turbulent times.
To say the least.
And our populations have questions. And they're looking for certainty. But I have to say, knowing that our military women and men are ready, that they are equipped, I feel confident. And I feel confident looking forward to that future. And I would like to thank our military personnel for giving us that necessary confidence. Thank you.
Okay. So enough of that. But there's another side to this, another important element, and that is the maintenance. And during recent hearings back in the United States, the US of A, we've seen the U.S. Air Force Secretary admitting that less than a third of F-35s built by Lockheed Martin are currently operationally capable. This is critical information. The Pentagon, it seems, may have given too much power to the defense contractors who, I don't know what's going on here, man, but it looks like there's just so much ongoing maintenance that the planes aren't flying or are not capable of flying in the numbers that would give rise to real confidence in the defense system in the Air Force. Here's the exchange with Republican Matt Gaetz. It's all about the dollars.
The F-35 is our signature Air Force platform. What percentage of them are fully mission capable today? Mr. Secretary.
Congressman, if you give me a second, I'm going to pull up my card and give you an exact answer.
Okay. Happy to.
Your eyes are probably there. 55% is the number we have for operational availability.
Full operationally capable.
55% for operational availability.
Do you think that's a good number or a bad number?
I think that's not a good number.
Failing.
I wouldn't put it quite in that category.
A D?
I'd ask General Alvin to comment on that. It's a number we'd like to see something.
Yeah, well, the reason I ask is because we got testimony that is a little contrary to that. Lieutenant General Schmidt, head of the F-35 program, gave testimony to the TAL subcommittee at HASC, and that testimony was that as of February of 2023, so a little over a year ago, only 29% were fully mission capable.
I think we need to talk the difference between operational availability and mission capable.
Okay, so how many are fully mission capable today?
I do not have that number, but I would not dispute what the JPO has in front. And I would look
29%, so fully mission capable, 29%. You have no basis to dispute that, but you don't really know if it's true or false.
I have no basis to dispute it, but I would like to.
So you would agree that 55% is like a D, that 29% is definitely failing, right?
For fully mission capable, but the missions that they can accomplish.
I go meet with the folks at the 33rd at Eglin Air Force Base in the district I represent, and they're doing a lot of, there's a lot of mission there, but like even the guys who are also at Eglin doing test, they end up being at the very end, right? And I totally get why you want your operational squadrons to be the most capable, but then test gets put to the end, and then we're not meeting our needs. Like, I just think anyone watching this, one, would be surprised that you, General, don't know the exact percentage that are operationally capable, and two, I think people would be surprised that it's 29%. And this GAO report that I found on breakingdefense.com that I seek unanimous consent to enter into the record, it says that the reason we are not capable is because you guys at the Pentagon have given too much power to Lockheed Martin and its subcontractors for sustainment. Do you believe Lockheed Martin has been given too much power on the sustainment of the F-35?
I believe that Lockheed Martin has more power than in some other weapon systems. They do have the contracted logistics system that was part of the procurement plan that was put in place 20 or some years ago.
Well, right. I mean, but it's not working. If the Lockheed Martin built the F-35, only 29% of them are fully operationally capable right now. We've all agreed that's failing. So now the question is, why is it failing? And this GAO report says the reason it's failing is because the fox is watching the hen house. Because the very contractor bilking the taxpayer for this platform is now in a position where they can't sustain it. Do you have a basis to disagree with that conclusion?
I have a long history with the F-35, and I inherited the program. I came into it in 2010. It was a few years into production at that point. And the first time I saw the program laid out, the schedule for it and so on, and when the decisions points were going to be, the question I asked, and I'm going to quote myself, who's running this program, the government or Lockheed Martin? That's a quote from 2010.
I think you have your answer, Mr. Secretary.
And we set up the program when it was originally set up under a philosophy of management called total system performance, which essentially gave to the prime contractor complete control of the program. We did not acquire the intellectual property to allow the government to come in and step in and control the program.
It sounds like
we are still fighting that problem today.
Well, right, but that is such important testimony for us to hear. Every member of the committee heard that. The government isn't running this program. Lockheed Martin's running this program.
That was a question I asked.
Well, it sounds like you got the answer. What's the answer to the question, Mr. Secretary? Because only 29% of them are operationally capable.
We took a lot of steps to try to get that under control. I once imposed a production contract on Lockheed. I dictated a price to them because we couldn't get a negotiation done. I did a unilateral contract. Let them take me to court if they wanted to. They chose not to. Put in place program managers who were very firm with the contractor and insisted on performance. We've had some conversations with the current head of the JPO, and we've had conversations with the CEO of Lockheed.
I appreciate those conversations. I've always found you to be the truth teller. You're always very honest with the committee and straightforward. The problem is the tail here is wagging the dog, and it's not going to get better unless there's accountability for the fact that their planes don't fly.
Wow. That's revealing, to say the least. So it shows you how vulnerable high-tech weaponry can actually be. There's a balance that has to be struck in order to actually have a victorious military in times of conflict, and that balance is cost and technology versus volume. Mass. How many planes, for instance, can you put into the air at any given time? The Germans during World War II fell into this trap to a great degree because they were developing the most advanced technologies of the day by far, but they invested so much in developing that the production side, the capacity that they had, was diminished, putting a lot of resources into developing new technologies while other countries were producing the conventional weapons of the day en masse. And that was one of the deciding factors of many battles. Of course, ultimately, nuclear technology bringing a complete end to the Second World War, as we know, with the development of the nuclear bomb, which is still with us today, major threat. And now hypersonic technology, further destabilizing things. And this whole situation in the Middle East continuing to boil over. Here's additional protesting in the streets. This in Canada now, where you're seeing pro-Hamas protesters. I believe this is in Toronto, with children in tow, wearing apparently fake, suicide vests, suicide bomber vests. This was April 13th.
And today, that response begins. And another thing, the terrorist Netanyahu has left Israel. Takbir! 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 Resistance! 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 يا شاهين ولا
doesn't sound like, you could see that was Canary Mission providing that video. It doesn't sound like they want a ceasefire. Sounds like they want an intifada revolution to me. That's what they're shouting for. I didn't hear them saying, ceasefire now. I've heard left-wing progressive protesters out there shouting that, but I'm not really hearing that from the pro-Hamas protesters in Ontario, still in Toronto, at the Ontario legislature. The kifa has been banned by the Speaker of the House. Speaker Ted Arnott has prohibited Palestinian kifas from being worn by anyone, MPPs or guests in the Ontario legislature, because there are concerns that the scarves make an overt political statement. This became obviously a hot-button political issue. Within an hour and a half of that happening, Premier Doug Ford came out and called on the Speaker to reverse the decision. There was subsequently a vote in the House in order to have that reversed. Tradition calls for a unanimous vote on a policy such as this, and it failed. So the ban remains in place. These are, of course, the things that are worn around the neck by Palestinians and people from those communities. So very controversial. Most people in the House supporting the reversal, but there were people, MPs, MPPs, members of provincial parliament in Ontario, who I guess could be heard mumbling no during the vote. So there were verbal no's heard by the Speaker. If it's not unanimous, it can't be reversed. The Speaker likening the decision, his policy, his decision to ban these accessories, I guess, wardrobe accessories. I don't know what do you call them? They're kifas, okay? To ban them because, in his view, they make a political statement. He's trying to maintain decorum in the House, maintain everything on an even keel, and he's equating it to even people, members of parliament or others coming into the House, members of the public even wearing sports jerseys, which need also to get unanimous approval before anyone can wear something like that in the House. So as long as it's viewed as something that is political or can carry a political message, for now, banned, unless there's a reversal on this through a unanimous vote of all MPPs in order to make it acceptable to wear those in the Ontario legislature. I'm sure we haven't heard the last of that. All that going on, and at the same time, with Ukraine, we're seeing tonight that Ukrainian officials are warning that if Ukraine falls, it will lead to World War III. That's what they're telling officials back in the United States as we wait for this vote on funding, which involves $61 billion in military aid for Ukraine and for Israel and for Taiwan. Russia has been saying that any additional American aid for Ukraine won't make a bit of difference on the battlefield. They're saying, and this is a quote, they're saying the situation on the front line is looking unfavorable for Ukraine, unfavorable being the word chosen by Russian officials. So Ukrainian prime ministers, the prime minister of Israel, Ukraine rather, was involved in an interview with the BBC in Washington, and this is what he had to say. Let me see if I can get this up full screen for you here. First of all, we have to get through this this preview clip, and then I'm going to show you the clip with the Ukrainian Prime Minister. This is not Zelensky, he's the president. This is the Prime Minister on BBC.
Differences from your conversations on Capitol Hill from lawmakers who say this will pass? Did they tell you that?
We have some conversations today. Some conversations we will have tomorrow. All the partners, all the congressmen have very careful optimism for Saturday, so we share this optimism. And we need this money yesterday, not tomorrow, not today, but yesterday. If Ukraine will fall, so the global, the global system of security will be destroyed. There will be many conflicts, many such kind of wars, and in the end of the day, it could lead to the Third World War. Our mutual task is to protect democratic values, to protect existing, after the Second World War, global system, global security system, and bring long-term and sustainable peace on European continent. So Russia must lose this war, and aggressor should be punished.
We saw Republican Congressman McCall say last week that he thinks that Russian propaganda has infected, that's the word that he used, some members of his party. What do you think of that?
We shouldn't forget that Russia is leading war with Ukraine on the ground, but Russia is leading war with civilized world, with West countries in the multi-dimensional spaces. Disinformation and propaganda is influencing here in the United States on many people, in European Union on many people, such as in Ukraine. So we should count on this, and we should make our work. We should fight against of this absolutely unprovoked, illegal aggression of Russia in Ukraine.
So that's the position of the Ukrainian Prime Minister, and a warning that if Ukraine falls, it will lead, that's what will lead to World War III. Well, while that's going on, Joe Biden seems to continue to lose his grip on reality, his cognitive abilities in question again today. Listen to this. This is him talking about a warning that he gave to Israel that makes no sense. Listen to this.
And I made it clear to Israelis, don't move on Haifa. It's just not, I mean, anyway, I just, look what we did recently when Israel was attacked. And I made it.
Now, if you didn't quite catch that, he said Israel shouldn't move on Haifa. Well, Haifa is in Israel. The guy, if that doesn't concern you, scare you, petrify you, I don't know what would. Well, maybe this will scare the living daylights out of you. This, again, pro-Palestinian protester in New York, Columbia, saying that they are Hamas. Not just protesters, that they are Hamas.
We are Hamas!
You're Hamas, wow. That's a good one. You're what? You're Hamas?
Yes, we're all Hamas, eh? We are Hamas!
You're Hamas, wow. That's a good one. You're what? You're Hamas?
Yes, we're all Hamas, eh?
Okay, well, maybe you don't take it seriously, but it's enough to concern me. I know that we are facing a really, an escalated risk of a terrorist attack here on domestic soil as a result of everything going on overseas. It's just the new reality because of all this destabilization. I don't know what else I can show you. to illustrate the point. It's just beyond concerning. And all that, while that's going on, the United Nations, they were voting today on full membership into the UN for Palestine, and it was not approved. The United States vetoed the motion. Here's, the discussion as usual went on at length, but here's the Russian Federation first and the United States right after, explaining their positions.
Force them out of their native territory. That policy is only having the opposite impact. At present, an absolute majority of the global community supports Palestine's application to become a full member of the World Organization. The suffering of Palestinian civilians is resounding in the hearts and minds of millions of people around the world. In countries that supply weapons to West Jerusalem, there are louder and louder voices calling for those supplies to be banned. Today's use of the veto by the US delegation is a hopeless attempt to stop the inevitable course of history. The results of the vote, where Washington was practically in complete isolation, speak for themselves. With the most playing into the hands of the most irrational actions by their ally and reluctant to find just solutions on the basis of the existing international legal basis, is a direct path to the further sliding into the mire of war which could encompass the entire region. If the United States and Israel benefit from this, then it will only be in the short term. At the same time, Washington will once and for all remove itself from the list of peace-loving and respected states, having fully shared responsibility with its Israeli allies for the deaths of tens of thousands of Palestinian civilians. And that is not worthy of a great power, and history will not forgive you for that. We call on the United States to listen to the voice of reason, to think about the consequences of their decisions, and to immediately join in the efforts of the other members of the Security Council to establish an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. Thank you.
I thank the representative of the Russian Federation and pass the floor to the United States.
And the
Thank you, Madam
divisions
President.
and alliances on full display
The
here
United
today.
States has worked vigorously and with determination to support Palestinian statehood in the context of a comprehensive peace agreement that would permanently resolve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Since the attacks of October 7th, President Biden has been clear that sustainable peace in the region can only be achieved through a two-state solution, with Israel's security guaranteed. There is no other path that guarantees Israel's security and future as a democratic Jewish state. There is no other path that guarantees Palestinians can live in peace and with dignity in a state of their own. And there is no other path that leads to regional integration between Israel and all its Arab neighbors, including Saudi Arabia. We also have long been clear that premature actions here in New York, even with the best intentions, will not achieve statehood for the Palestinian people. As members of the Security Council, we have a special responsibility to ensure that our actions further the cause of international peace and security and are consistent with the requirements of the UN Charter. As reflected in the report of the Admission Committee, there was not unanimity among committee members as to whether the applicant met the criteria for membership as set forth in Article 4 of the UN Charter. For example, there are unresolved questions as to whether the applicant meets the criteria to be considered a state. We have long called on the Palestinian Authority to undertake necessary reforms to help establish the attributes of readiness for statehood, and note that Hamas, a terrorist organization, is currently exerting power and influence in Gaza, an integral part of the state envisioned in this resolution. For these reasons, the United States voted no on this Security Council resolution. Again, the United States continues to strongly support a two-state solution. This vote does not reflect opposition to Palestinian statehood, but instead is an acknowledgement that it will only come from direct negotiations between the parties. A central focus of U.S. policy prior to October 7, the October 7 Hamas terrorist attacks, was to promote normalization between Israel and its Arab neighbors and, as a critical element of a normalization package, generate tangible benefits and a political horizon for the Palestinian people. This was based on the U.S. judgment that normalization is the most viable pathway to make progress on what had been an intractable situation between the Israelis and the Palestinians. In the aftermath of October 7, conversations on potential normalization and a political horizon for the Palestinians that would lead to statehood and membership at the UN have continued. Hamas and its Iranian backers would probably prefer this effort not succeed, but we are determined to see it through. It remains the U.S. view that the most expeditious path towards statehood for the Palestinian people is through direct negotiations between Israel and the Palestinian Authority with the support of the United States and other partners. We believe this approach can tangibly advance Palestinian goals in a meaningful and enduring way. We also believe, in light of Iran's unprecedented and outrageous actions over the last week, that Israel's neighbors would stand to benefit greatly from normalization. The United States is committed to intensifying its engagement with the Palestinians and the rest of the region, not only to address the current crisis in Gaza, but to advance a political settlement that will create a path to Palestinian statehood and membership in the United Nations. The United States will continue to oppose unilateral measures that undermine the prospect of a two-state solution.
Okay, so the whole thing is just it seems to be getting, well, it already is out of control. And there are a lot of reasons for that. This new arms race being one of them. Bad decisions on foreign policy, I would say, being another. And those poor decisions coming from the White House, I would say. And also, you know, I would say that it's a strategic thing on the other side, on the side of Russia and Iran and Hamas and the Arab nations that are aligned with Russia and Iran. And so they're employing their strategies as well. Russia has strategic interests in that region. And I would say that what the Ukrainian prime minister said is, in this respect, true, that Russia, and by extension Iran, and I showed you evidence of this last night, they're engaging in multidimensional fifth-generation warfare. A lot of it involves information warfare, propaganda, manipulation of institutions, and I think that they've been far more effective than the West, than Israel. They're winning in the court of public opinion, and that is the most important thing. And as a result, there's been almost no support, really, for the war in Ukraine in probably the last year. And right from the beginning, there's been minimal support, I would say, for what's going on in Israel, because we've had at least 4 years of information warfare surrounding Israel in a covert way, in a soft propaganda way, taking place here in the West as well. And then there's also, you know, the elements of truth that come into play here as well. And so they wrap narratives around that. The end result is what we have on our hands right now. Plus, you've just got, I think, corrupt politicians in there, and you have... It's a very messy geopolitical situation that is putting the entire world on the brink of a third world war, and a lot of it is hanging in the balance because of this guy right here. This is Joe Biden today telling a tale of his uncle in World War II. This is bizarre. Being shot down. He was a pilot on the coast of New Guinea in an area where there were a lot of cannibals around. This is the strangest thing. It started today with, well, I showed you the other clip. Then today started with this, though. These comments about his uncle being shot down and sort of suggesting that his uncle may have been eaten by cannibals. I'm sorry, YouTube, if you don't like what I'm saying, but this is just true. This is what the president said today.
Ambrose Finnegan, we called him Uncle Bosie. He was shot down. He was in the Army Air Corps before there was an Air Force. He flew single-engine planes, reconnaissance flights over New Guinea. He had volunteered because someone couldn't make it. He got shot down in an area where there were a lot of cannibals in New Guinea at the time. They never recovered his body, but the government went back when I went down there and they checked and found parts of the plane and the like. And what I was thinking about when I was standing there was when Trump refused to go up to the memorial for the veterans in Paris, and he said they're a bunch of suckers and losers.
Just the strangest comments talking about his uncle and being shot down and cannibals, and then pivoting over to Trump and going back to that old comment that he made, which he's taking out of context there, by the way, where he's saying that Trump is saying that people who served in the military are suckers and losers. That's not really what he meant. You'd have to go back and see the actual full clip in its full context to really understand what he was saying at the time. And that's from a while back. Why he's making reference to it again now, I'm really not sure. The whole thing just doesn't make sense to me, but that's kind of par for the course with Joe Biden. Mr. Senility, the president of, I can't remember where I am and which way to exit off the stage. And then here he is telling this tale again in just slightly different words during his speech to union members.
Back when D-Day occurred, and on Sunday, the next day, my mother's 4 brothers all went down to the recruiting station and joined the military. Every one of them volunteered. And my uncle, they called him Ambrose, they called him Bosie. My Uncle Bosie was a hell of an athlete, they tell me, when he was a kid. And he became an Army Air Corps before the Air Force came along. He flew those single-engine planes as reconnaissance over war zones. He got shot down in New Guinea, and they never found the body because there were a lot of cannibals for real in that part of New Guinea. And then my son volunteered to go to Iraq for a year, and he came back with stage 4 glioblastoma. And they gave, like many of you, risked your lives, and you know people who gave their lives to the country. They're heroes. But one of the things that as I was doing that today, I was reminded of what my opponent said in Paris not too long ago. They asked him to go visit American grave sites. He said no, he wouldn't do it because they were all suckers and losers. I'm not making that up. Staff who was with him acknowledged it today. Suckers and losers. That man doesn't deserve to have been the commander-in-chief for my son.
It was weird. Maybe his emotion at the end was genuine and heartfelt, but it was still kind of bizarre. And maybe there's truth. I don't know. So, of course, the press secretary asked about this. mid-flight today on the aircraft with reporters, and this is what she had to say. This is how she responded to questions about the comment about the cannibals.
Questions. Okay.
Can we just say the cannibal tab in your book?
Cannibals? There's no cannibal tab. What are you talking about? Is that what you're asking me about?
Can you fit us in? Yeah.
Okay. Look, I'll just, and I think we shared this with some of you, so I'm just going to kind of repeat. Look, you saw the president. He was incredibly proud of his uncle's service in uniform. You saw him at the War Memorial. It was incredibly emotional and important to him. You saw him respond to all of you when asked about the moment yesterday. And his uncle, who lost his life when the military aircraft he was on crashed in the Pacific after taking off near New Guinea. The president highlighted his uncle's story as he made the case for honoring our sacred commitment to equip those we send to war and to take care of them and their families when they come home. And as he reiterated that the last thing American veterans are suckers or losers, and he wanted to make that clear. He wanted to make the story. I mean, look, I don't have anything beyond about what I just laid out, but it was a really proud moment for him. It was incredibly emotional. I think some of your colleagues, as you know, Zeke, were there, and they got to witness the president pray at the War Memorial, look for his uncle's name, honor him, and I think we can't forget that moment, and we cannot also forget what it means to be a commander-in-chief, what it means to lift up our service members, what it means to make sure that we respect their service, and he made that contract very clear as to what we saw from the former president.
Story.
Sorry, guys. Thank you.
Okay, so I don't fully understand where all this came from, so I'm just here. I'm looking up how other media might be covering this, and so just here's an MSNBC article on it. Maybe they can give us some greater context for whatever it's worth coming from them. Why did Joe Biden suggest that his uncle was eaten by cannibals? President Joe Biden made an odd suggestion that his uncle, who served in the Army during World War II, may have been eaten by cannibals after his plane crashed off the coast of New Guinea. In a portion of his speech at a campaign stop in Pittsburgh, and this was actually yesterday, folks, Biden drew a distinction between his family's military service and Donald Trump's disparaging comments about military members as reported in The Atlantic in 2020. Told you, it was a long time ago. They're going back 4 years. Trump has denied making those remarks. He actually did, but not in that context. I remember him saying that. Biden then brought up Ambrose J. Finnegan, a second lieutenant with the U.S. Army Air Force, whose plane crashed off the coast of New Guinea in 1944. He got shot down in New Guinea. They never found the body, Biden said, because there were a lot of cannibals for real in that part of New Guinea. Researchers have documented cannibalism practices in parts of the Melanesia region, but Biden's remarks raised eyebrows. News reports, Defense POW MIA accounting agency said that Finnegan's plane was forced to ditch in the ocean for unknown reasons, and that 3 men, including Finnegan, failed to emerge from the sinking wreck and were lost in the crash. And then it goes on here and it says, well, Biden's claim that his uncle's remains were not recovered is in line with the official military record. The detail about cannibalism is not. Quote, he has not been associated with any remains recovered from the area after the war and is still unaccounted for, the DPAA said of Finnegan. Biden had also told reporters a similar story about his uncle after visiting a veterans memorial in Scranton, Pennsylvania earlier Wednesday. Yes, and I showed you that, before departing for Pittsburgh. That coming from CNN. White House Deputy Press Secretary Andrew Bates did not clarify Biden's remarks in a statement later, but did add that the president is proud of his uncle's service in uniform, who lost his life when the military aircraft he was on crashed in the Pacific after taking off near New Guinea. Here it is here in the final paragraph. The cannibalism detail in Biden's story about his uncle may simply be an embellishment or a bit of unsubstantiated family lore. At any rate, Biden does not appear to have brought that detail up before. According to Associated Press, Biden only briefly mentioned his uncle as a flyer killed in New Guinea in his 2008 memoir. It's just... So the plane crashed in the ocean. No evidence that any of this is even true involving the cannibals. Why would he bring that up? I don't know. As I say, as soon as I heard it, it seemed bizarre to me. And maybe it is an old family tale that they tell even today, and he's sharing that with the world. Maybe he really believes it, but it seems unlikely, given the nature of the crash and the evidence surrounding that. So what he was saying to those union members, maybe not quite accurate. Maybe he's having another Biden moment. Speaking of unions, Canada's Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, speaking at the Canadian Labour Congress Council meeting. This happening today. And he used the opportunity to pivot back to his old campaign pitch to the middle class, the working class, while going after Pierre Poilievre. Clearly, Trudeau is in political trouble, and he is seeing that he's losing the support of ordinary, working class, middle class Canadians, the very people that he really, based his previous elections on. He promised to make the middle class more prosperous and stronger, and these economic policies coming from him have really done just the opposite, as we're seeing again with the current budget. And as I said last night, the new party of the populists, of the people, the new party of the working class today, strangely enough, appears to be the Conservatives under Pierre Poilievre. The Liberals and even the NDP traditionally being the party of unions and labor, even though they're still associated with labor, not really appealing to working class Canadians. Trudeau reaching out here today during this address at the Canadian Labour Congress Council.
Harper had put it out. We ensured women and men in federally regulated workplaces start getting equal pay for equal work. And when we renegotiated NAFTA, we added significant labor protections. Now, the Conservative leader likes to pretend he's there for workers, but everything I just listed are all things that he would either cut or roll back. And he continues to show with his voting record, with his approach on things, regardless of the populist reach out that he's giving to workers, that he hasn't changed in the 19 years he's been in Parliament in his continued stands against workers. Last fall, we introduced anti-scab legislation to ban replacement workers, because banning replacement workers is about free and fair bargaining. You cannot get to a good deal unless it's at the bargaining table, and that's what it's actually going to be. For me, it seems like such an obvious thing, but I was reminded just last week as I sat down with the good folks at the Chamber of Commerce of this country when Perrin Beatty leaned in and said, you really got to undo that anti-scab legislation. And I'm like, wow, there really are people who don't get it, that don't get that you cannot build a strong economy unless you are empowering labor to stand up for the middle class and make sure that a good deal happens at the bargaining table. That's what we're standing for with that, and that's what we're always going to stand for alongside you. When we build opportunities for workers, it's good for the middle class and their families, and it's good for the economy as well. Because our budget is all about building that. It's about a fair shot for success. D'abord, on doit...
Okay, we'll stop there. That's the same rhetoric we've heard in the past, all the way along. And the proof is not in the pudding. All you need to do is look at your current situation Are you better off today than you were 8 years ago when Justin Trudeau took the reins of power in this country? Are you financially better off? Is your standard of living higher? Is the cost of living lower? I would argue no. No, you're not better off. I'm not better off. We're all paying more. Today we're paying a lot more at the pump here in the province of Ontario in Canada, for instance, where I know that in my hometown alone, just my hometown, the price has spiked overnight. $1.77.9 per liter for gasoline here. Let me just check current gas prices across the country. Yes. Seems the high point is in southern Ontario, where some people are paying as much as $1.93 for premium, $1.84.5 for mid-grade gasoline. Let's just check what CAA, the Canadian Automobile Association, is saying about this today. Daily national average, $1.69.6. That's the average, so they're dollar cost averaging that over the entire country. But in some places, as I reported yesterday, the price was expected to spike to as high as $1.79.9 in some parts of Ontario, and indeed we are seeing the price even higher than that in some communities. As Justin Trudeau sits there and tells us that his policies are designed to benefit the middle class. Don't think it's not gonna fly with people anymore. Okay, let's take just before we go, the chief of the International Monetary Fund saying actually that the United States is benefiting more from higher energy prices than countries in Europe. Just making note of that comment today. Interesting, and I do understand why. It's because the US dollar is tied to the value of oil. It is the petrodollar. And so as energy prices climb, it helps give the US dollar buoyancy. But it overall is not necessarily good for the economy, because as the price of oil and gasoline rises, energy costs increase, the cost of everything increases. It's also inflationary. Inflation, though, on the government side can be beneficial for them because it allows government, the politicians, to sort of inflate their way out of debt at our expense, at the expense of the public. It's a form of indirect, well, it's a covert form of taxation. Difficult concept for some people to understand, but that is the economic truth. Just because of the way the dynamics work. Doug Ford, again, Premier of Ontario, lashing out at Justin Trudeau and the oil companies, saying that these double-digit gas price hikes overnight, in some cases, in many communities, are, in his words, disgusting. That's what he had to say. Oh, also, I think I have a clip of Doug Ford lined up here for you, commenting on the Kifa issue, if I can find him here. I may have lost him. Perhaps I did. Maybe not that important at this stage in the game. Excuse me for coughing into the microphone. Yeah, okay, so let's take a little break here. I've got a couple of other things to queue up while we're looking at this.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, so this may be, I mean, truth, stranger than fiction. Maybe this story should be on, the next episode of Truspiracies, but I'm going to talk about it here because it's just truth. This is about a woman who rolled a dead body into a bank. And tried to present the body as a living relative, and then put a pen into the hand of this person. Here's one of the mainstream reports on it. Woman who wheeled a corpse into bank to co-sign a loan arrested. So this was in Rio de Janeiro. And this Brazilian woman wheeled this corpse into the bank, trying to secure a loan. I guess this man, this uncle of hers, was supposed to help her co-sign for a loan, I guess, right? And he died just before she was supposed to go to the bank. So she puts him in a wheelchair, rolls him into the place, and then she's talking to him like he's still alive. And she's saying, quote, according to witnesses, "Uncle, are you listening? You need to sign the contract. If you don't sign, there's no way because I can't sign for you." So this woman who has been charged, her name is, what's her name? Let's get her name here. Erica de Souza Vieira Nunes. And this is the body of her uncle, Paulo Roberta Braga. And so she says, "Sign, so you don't give me any more headaches. I can't take it anymore," she said to the dead body. She goes on and says, "I don't think he's," the teller at her bank employee saying, "I don't think he's well. He doesn't look well at all." Because he's dead. So the bank staff, very concerned about the man's health, they called police. Cops show up. Then they find that the guy is dead. And so this woman now, Nunes, has been charged with violating a corpse and attempted theft through fraud. True story. It's a true story. Not as conspiracy, just straight up true story. Like something out of a horror movie. This is like an Edgar Allan Poe tale, if I ever heard one. And then, of course, people are going to look at this as well, talking about all this military stuff tonight, and this post making the rounds, this image, which concerns a lot of people, makes people wonder about the capabilities and readiness of the U.S. military. The caption on this, our military has other priorities. And you can see that this is top military brass. I don't have to say anything about the picture, and you'll know immediately why some people are concerned. F-35s or no F-35s, I suppose it doesn't really matter that much if the people running things are not focused on the most important things. And this story about the lack of preparedness for the F-35s getting some traction, I'm seeing even here online right now on X, formerly known as Twitter, more posts coming out focusing concerns on that very issue. And then, of course, this all brings us right back to Ukraine, right back to NATO, right back to the alliances that are forming, and right back to Gaza, and right back to all the protests and that story that I talked about the other night, last night, about the protest, well, a person at that college in Red Deer, Alberta, who apparently committed suicide by setting themselves on fire. Police still releasing no additional information, only acknowledging that there was an incident. The same thing with the college itself, but people in the community talking about this story. I just wanted to update you, let you know that if you were looking for additional information on this, none has been released, in spite of requests made, even by myself, to police directly, asking for confirmation or any information that they might be able to provide on this. Traditionally, normally, suicides are not reported on. However, and I would not normally report on a suicide, but as I explained last night, this is a particular interest because of all the politics, all the protests, what's going on in Gaza, and specifically what happened a couple of months ago with that person, and I'm not saying the name, who self-immolated, committed suicide as an act of protest in a very, very public way, live streaming it in front of the Israeli embassy in Washington to protest what's going on in Gaza. Pro-Palestinian protester committing suicide. The ultimate act of, well, I would say waste. What was this incident in Red Deer, Alberta? Is it a form of protest of some kind? We're not getting any information. I don't know that we ever will. But it happened. The area secured for an extended period of time for investigators to look into the matter, but no information still coming out, even though there is a real heightened level of interest in the community. And I would say there is potentially public interest in making the information available to the public, depending on the circumstances surrounding it. I'll continue to keep an ear to the ground. I'll put in additional requests for information. We'll see if we can get to the bottom of it and confirm one way or another exactly what happened there and release information in the most responsible way possible. to serve the public interest, because that is what we are here to do every night. Just not easy. Especially when you're dealing with such a sensitive incident. Yeah. Okay, what else do we have for you this evening? This is a local thing, and this is related to, online digital activity, personal security, safety. This was an interesting thing, and I'm not sure exactly how I feel about it. I'm interested in your comments on what I'm about to show you. This is in Windsor, Ontario, Canada, where police are working with a local councillor, and have worked, to set up like a Facebook or online trade safe location, a safety, what are they calling it? A safety exchange zone. So the idea here is that you go online, you post like used goods for sale on Facebook Marketplace or another platform of that type. You make a deal with somebody online, and then rather than have someone come to your home, you can go meet them at this safe exchange location. I think it's at the Collision Reporting Center, which is also run by police. If you get into an accident and it's a minor event, you go to the Collision Reporting Center rather than have police attend to the scene. You record the information yourself, go there, and that's a whole other ball of wax. But this is the idea here now at this new setup that they've got going on, and I'll let the police and the councillor explain what they're doing here. I just noticed this story, this information being released, and I thought it was a unique idea. I'm just not entirely sure how I feel about it, because you're under surveillance here, but here you go.
Today I'm here at the Windsor Police Collision Reporting Center to introduce our new internet purchase safe zone.
This site here makes online purchasing safer. Buyers and sellers can meet in this safe environment without disclosing their home address. Also, this is a highly visible area with CCTV coverage.
We encourage all residents from the community to come and use this internet purchase safe zone. We want everybody to stay safe.
Yes.
Today I'm here.
So what do you think of that? Is that a good idea? Would you guys use that? I mean, there's such I get it, and I think it's probably a good idea, but I wonder if people are comfortable doing that, given that they're going to be on surveillance camera. You walk in there, you're conducting some sort of a transaction with someone. Would you trust it? There's so much distrust with police across the board these days. I wonder if any of you would actually take advantage of that. Would you? What do you guys think? Looking in the chat here right now. Raising Wolves says they have them at where she lives. Long Meadow, no! And Raising Wolves says, yes, totally great idea and much safer. I mean, yeah, you don't know who might come to your home. You don't know who you're dealing with, right? If someone rips you off, it'll be on camera, and then you could file a complaint with police. They would have a record of that evidence. You'd be much less likely to be assaulted, for instance, or something like that. So I certainly understand the advantages that way, but does police just have this issue of trust that they have to overcome? It is in front of City Police Station. Art Clark says, okay. Says it's on Jefferson. When I lived in Windsor, as I recall, it was way out, away from the downtown police station. But anyway, we'll see. One way or another, wondering if you guys think it's a good idea or not. Or maybe, I don't know where Art Clark lives. Art, are you in Windsor, or are you talking about another community where a similar thing is being done? Art says it is in front of City Police Station. Isabel says they could still follow you home. I suppose that is a possibility. Cabo Gal says it is a good idea. The commercial was dumb. Yeah, kind of a low budget, just on the fly, run-of-the-mill garden variety video, right? Belovely One over on Rumble says not a good idea. And Brent 1982 on Rumble says, I'm okay with this. People have been killed doing these transactions. We be jammin', PEI says, PEI. And Longmeadow says they can come to my property. I can take care of myself. Tarface says I would use it. So many scams going on locally on the buy and sell. Yeah, it can be risky. You need to be very careful there. And just MedDeb01, going back in time here on the chat, says, starting to sound like your Sunday night broadcast trick. Cannibalism, now corpses co-signing for loans. Yeah, I know. It is. It's not only disturbing, it's just downright bizarre. But these are true stories. Like, I can't wait till Sunday to tell you. It's news today, history tomorrow. I got to share it with you while it's current. I suppose I could just give you a different version of the story during the True Conspiracies broadcast. Oh, man. Isn't it weird? Weird times we're living in. Very, very weird times. And Bitcoin, keep an eye on Bitcoin, man. The halvening happens tomorrow, as far as I understand. So if you're in the Bitcoin game, I don't know. I'm not making any recommendations one way or another, but a lot of people think that we might see something significant happen to the price of Bitcoin because of the halvening, which is due to take place tomorrow. Might need that. Might need to make some capital gains over on Bitcoin given the price of gasoline. Wow. Okay, that kind of wraps things up here tonight, folks. That gets us to a place where I think we can sort of call it an evening. I really appreciate you guys joining me here. As always, coming together, Maverick family. It's just good stories, bad stories, strange stories, disturbing stories, really weird stories tonight, and a lot of mumbling. Joe Biden. What else can I tell you? If you're inclined to support the channel because you like what we do, you can do that by making a donation over at maverickdonations.com. Oh, and I have to show you. I just got these today. Got some more of these long sleeve t-shirts. These are nice ones. Not as heavy as like a sweat. It's just a nice high quality Gildan shirt, long sleeve. Any donation of $45 or more and I can send you one of those. $35 or more and I can send you just a regular t-shirt. And we do have these embroidered shirts as well. $60 or more and I can send you one of those. But yeah, these long sleeve tees, didn't get too many of those before, and I just got a few today that I picked up from the place that produces these for us. Nice fellow over there. You can also donate at freedomreporters.com, as many of you already know. That's the PayPal. The other one is the Give, Send, Go. Most people donate at the freedomreporters.com. If you do donate, make sure you tell me in the comment what size you want. They only come in one color, black, of course. Just tell me what size you need and provide your address, and I'd be really happy to send you one of these long sleeve tees or one of the other shirts that we have here. Maverick News. I think we still have some Knights of Malta t-shirts as well. So if you're into that, and I know Choosy is, same deal, same setup. Just I'll send you the Knights of Malta. Just let me know what you want, and we'll work it out. Send me the messages. And there you have it, folks, on this, what is it today, the 18th day of April, 2024. We'll be back tomorrow. Same time, same station. Maverick News Channel, where we have the antivirus programs for your minds, and I will catch you on the flip side.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.